Hi everybody, Nick McDonald here. Thank you for joining us for this week's Russell 2000 and Equity Markets Outlook. Just looking here at the Russell on the monthly chart. Last month's candle was very bullish, having pulled back into the buy zone on the moving averages and then rejecting that the lower prices and pushing right back up and very strong. This month we've broken up through the highs and that was very bullish. We'd expect to push on. And it still does look bullish, however there's just a slight little reason for concern and a reason to start looking at the downside as well and just assessing which way this is really likely to go, simply because this candle, rather than breaking up through and pushing on straight up, it's broken up through and it's starting to reject a little bit. Now it's only the 17th of the month, we've still got plenty of time for that to close bullish, there's no reason for any major alarm. I'm still definitely leaning towards the bullish side. Just a little bit of a reason there to start looking at, hey, is this likely to be breaking down from here? We'll go and have a look at lower timeframes and make that assessment. So coming and looking at it on the weekly chart, it's too early to call this a lower high now, because in fact we've broken up slightly above this previous high at 850, but on the monthly chart we're really looking for a break up through this high up here, which is around about 870. So at the moment though, again, we've still got these equal lows put in, we've broken up, we've made it ever so slightly higher high on that high. We really want to see a high over this one, but for now there's no major reason for concern. It's just something to be keeping an eye on, because if price did break lower from here, especially if it broke down through 765, there'd be major reason for concern. It would start to look like it was very much going lower. For now though, it's really early days. I'm not expecting that to happen. I'm still leaning towards the bullish side. Why am I towards the bullish side? Well, last week I said that we were due a pullback, and the daily chart was right up here last week. I said we're due a pullback into the averages before pushing on again, and we've had exactly that now. We've had our pullback into the averages, and now I'm expecting price to push on again. If it doesn't push on, that's when the alarm bells will start ringing for me a little bit, and where I will start to look maybe a little bit more to the downside. But for now I still remain very bullish. Price has rallied up, it's pulled back in, it's had a good pullback right back in, and even touched the 50 period moving average. It's sitting right in that zone around the 10 and 20 period, and it's looking like pushing on up for me from here. So looking bullish on the Russell, so long as we can break up this week. I'm expecting an up week this week. Any breaks down, in fact even any breaks down through last week's lows, will be a slight concern for me. Any breakdown below 800 and I'd very much start looking to the downside and thinking, actually, is price likely to go lower? And if we broke 765, it would be a very bearish sign, and we'd be looking for a significantly bigger pullback if we got down through there. Let's have a quick look at some of the cash indices and just see how this backs it up. It's very similar across them all. Dow had a good run up, good pullback into the averages, and again is poised quite nicely for a push up this week. The monthly candle on the Dow is looking probably slightly more bullish than it was on the Russell, which is a good sign. Coming and looking at the S&P, this one's slightly more concerned, only because the weekly chart is looking a little bit more bearish here, and it's almost like you can see a classic head and shoulders pattern potentially setting up. And I don't like the term head and shoulders. I know it's a popular term, but it's just a change of trend, and I prefer to refer to it as a change of trend. However, you can kind of see that classic pattern of shoulder, head, shoulder. If it broke down though, this is the key thing, it would have to break down through here to confirm that. And ultimately, what would that be? It would be a lower high followed by a breakdown to a lower low. It would just be a change of trend. So I don't really care about it for what it's called, but it would be, in this sense, a lower high. If we break down to there, that is the exact point the trend would change from up to down on the S&P. So we need to really watch that level closely, because we now know the exact point where the S&P would be changing trend if it broke down through those lows. So something to keep an eye on, very much like 765 on the Russell. The low there on the S&P is 1258, so anything at 1257 or below would be a new downtrend for the S&P that would be significant coming from the weekly chart. Coming in and just looking at the Nasdaq, just to wrap things up. Nasdaq is looking bullish, broken up, rallied up, pulled back into the buy zone, very much like the others. Weekly chart looks strong on this one, monthly chart looks strong, probably one of the more bullish of the bunch. So just coming back to the Russell and just saying what we're looking at here, really just figures to watch on the downside. First one is last week's low around about 815. Still would be majorly concerned if it broke down through there, but certainly would start to get concerned if it broke down below 800. I'd expect 800 to hold if we got down to that level, and if it broke down through 765, we would be moving into a new period of a new downtrend. Have to break down and have a good close below that level, but then we'll be looking for price to be going lower. As it happens though, it's not what I'm expecting to happen this week. I'll be looking for breaks up through these green daily candles, so I'm looking for a break up through here just early in the week as my initial point. and then really confirming by breaking up through around about 840, breaks up through these candles are going to be setting us up for push on up, and I'm expecting the Russell this week to break up through the 860 level and even come up and hopefully break up through this 870 level and push on up to new highs. I'm expecting that in the next few weeks, possibly this week, but certainly this week to be pushing on up and getting up around 860 again is very much on the cards. Happy trading all, hope that helps, and speak to you next week.